Hello, good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening, sir. We are good. How are
Good
you?
evening, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
So, how's weekend?
Weekend was great.
Today is Republic Day in India.
Yeah, right.
Happy Republic Day, sir.
So, yeah, thank you. And you might hear some Rashtragan and all because I'm sitting near the window and we have flag hosting downstairs. And
How nice.
I'll try to close that window.
Hello.
Yes, hi. Good evening. How are you? We can hear you. Yes. I believe this is shared by Mansa, ma'am. Could you share? See these things?
We can
There's
see.
nice, yeah,
Yeah,
there's
we
nice
can.
woolen carpet and it's a WBS structure. Could you please, explain it, ma'am? Could you hear us? I believe, wait a minute.
Hello.
Yes, could you hear us, ma'am? I believe she have problem with her mic or something. Mansa, ma'am, could you see your WBS on the, this thing? What happened? Wait a minute, let me, bring that, this is Lina ma'am, yours, SOA and, microservices differences.
Yeah, this is just for everybody's
Yeah.
note. And they can just glance it and they know the difference.
Yes, this is architecture,
Yeah, I should have.
service-oriented architecture, no problem. Yeah, this is really great differences, but yes, uh, so we are basically talking about the many services clubbed together to get an efficient working of the overall software. That's how it, these things. So it's a flexibility, easy and time management, lower cost of management, provides super value, but better ROI, very great. Microservices, same thing. Many services we normally try to put it in a request and response type of architecture. That's right. I think this is more than this is more than enough what we could basically uh, um, try to understand right now, because we are not architect or designer, we are analysts. So what we try to do, we try to understand just the difference on a conceptual level or theoretical level. That will be more than enough. And I believe you have gone in depth and try to also pull out some good examples. So ballet dance performances where each dancer independent and knows their steps, right? But whenever we talk about architect or a solution, we try to get it worked in a synergy, and we try to work in a coordination. So this is a kind of independent services we talked about, very rightly said. And this is the major disadvantage, because every service works in an independent. So it's like every messenger, like if you have 16 different messengers, they have their own way to work. But when it comes to synergy, we lack the synergy. So that's a kind of disadvantage also here. That's very well done. So let me try to bring up that WBS template again. Where's WBS template?
Am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay, please go ahead. This is your diagram, right, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you please?
Yeah, I have taken my chores of a single day actually here.
Uh-huh.
And here I had divided into 5 sections: cooking, laundry, grocery, shopping, kids, gardening.
Right.
And in the first structure, in the cooking, I had taken breakfast, lunch, dinner. And again, in the breakfast, I divided into 3. In the house, there will be categories, maybe baby, kid, and adults. And I think maybe old people like moms and grandmas and grandpas, but I have taken till adults. And this again divided into baby should be feeded by milk bottle, and kids is milk and cereals, adults sandwich and coffee in the breakfast. And in
Wow.
the lunch too, I have taken these three categories: baby, kid, and adults. And baby rice and dal, kid rice, veggies and dal, adults rice, pickles and veggies. And in the
Mm-hmm.
dinner too, baby, kid, adults. Baby is
Right.
feeding by milk bottle,
Mm-hmm.
and kid with chapatis and paneer. Actually, my kid like this, so I have added this.
No problem.
And
That's how we learn, right? If you
and
take the example from real
yeah,
life, you can explain it clearly. And this is what I want
yeah,
to do. That's very
yeah,
right. Please go ahead.
yeah. And in the laundry section, I will divide into this for baby, kid, adults, and
Mm-hmm.
bed sheets and floor mats.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is not much divide should be or branched in this. So I have gone through grocery shopping, and
Right.
grocery shopping: veg, non-veg, fruits, dairy, veg, leafy vegetables, veggies, lentils, all, and
Right.
non-veg, all this eggs, fish, and
Mm-hmm.
fruits: apple, banana, peach. And in dairy, I have taken milk, yogurt, and that's all. And for kids, schoolworks and playtime and extracurricular activities. And in again in the schoolworks, I had divided into sections. And in playtime, I had divided into TV and bike riding. And in the extracurricular activities, I had taken dance, piano, and singing. And in gardening, I had taken watering, potting, and harvesting. This is what
Okay.
I think. This is
Great, great. Anybody have any question, confusion on these? Really great work, Mansi ma'am. And this is
thank
how
you, sir.
we normally try to relate the example so that we can understand. Even during the interview, we can say similar thing, and this will go a long way. Believe me. Means I believe you
Okay.
understood the WBS at a granular level as well. And this is a kind
Okay.
of project management tool rather than BA tool. But yes,
Mhm.
it helps in our day-to-day life also. So that's why it's really best if you can learn it well and good. There are so many tools, right? And even we
Okay.
need to decide, or I need to decide what's I like. I might
Mhm.
like mind map, I might like just the Excel, and I need to
Yes.
really understand and work in it so that whenever the interview asks, so which tool do you prefer and why, so you could be able to share the real life example rather than theoretical example, because that way he or she will be more comfortable, because you can explain in depth. He might need to
Okay.
okay, 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 ma'am. You explained it right. Let's go on to the next question, because
Okay,
that's
sir.
what the interviewer, job. He tried to understand if you understood the philosophy behind this tool, then you can basically substitute with any tool in the world. If you know the relate, if you can relate these tools internally, let's say mind map with WBS, or sort with WBS, you could really understand how these tools are different, and then you can learn one upon that. That's how I learn. I'm a kinesthetic by psychological personality orders, so I normally remember these pictures, right? The way you've drawn it, you have a very different type of writing style. I believe this is clearly coming from the English second verbage, second level language verbage we use. It's really different. So we try to remember these images, and this is how we explain one by one. Anybody have any questions?
Good.
Okay, let's move to Lina ma'am's WBS. She shared quite a few days back. Yes, Lina ma'am, could you see?
Yeah, I can see.
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, see, this is like a work breakdown structure for our family vacation. So when you decide to go on a vacation, there are a
Right.
few things. The very first thing you decide is where do you want to go. So that is your destination, right? Then second one, let's go on that first. So destination also, you just say Europe. Now Europe, you have to again break it down. So destination Europe and Italy and Australia, you narrowed it down to two. So now that's why I categorize three in one sequence. And then you finally, the last one is Austria. So you decided you want to go to Austria. Now, the same thing for booking. When it comes to booking, you have to decide which airline you want to go. So, choice of British and Lufthansa. Then you narrowed it down to Lufthansa, and the final step is to book. So
Right.
that's why I have grouped the first three steps, but the last stage is independent, like it's like not part of that group. Then preparation, the rest of the preparation. Now everything is done. So apply for the leave, take care of the pet, and then final is shopping and ready to go. So that's how these three categories. I thought we can't take the fourth one. We can't go on the fourth one. Otherwise, we can still elaborate more.
Ma'am, we can go as much as we like. There's no
Okay.
limitation, and this is philosophy, right? So it's
Mhm.
and you're using Microsoft Word. So Microsoft Word also doesn't stop you. The thing is that the last element should give you an estimation. So when you say Italy or Australia, I might zero on to Austria, right? So
Yeah.
Austria, I'll clearly say, okay, Austria, why Australia? No, Austria, because because of the year, because of the tickets concession rate you got. Those things also I can mention. So this gives you me the final result, and I can also put in why, and I can put in estimation. Otherwise, if you're
Oh,
trying to
okay.
break down work, these are basically you're trying to, again, that European guys said ki, like in America they normally break down the activities, and this what is the activity breakdown structure, right? So you're trying to come to a resultant activity here, and resultant activity because of these many regions. So it's you're evolving your decisions step by steps, right?
Oh, got it. Got it.
So
And even
I'm
booking,
not
we
trying to
can go further
criticize.
down, right?
Yeah, I'm not trying to criticize, or this
No,
is
no,
what
no.
this is
You have a
correctly
point.
correct. Exactly,
You have
this
a
is
point.
correct. Means be it activity, be it a work down structure, what I need last step should give me an inference, and that's what you came to. Now normally as in software or analyst, I try to include the reasoning there within a smaller font or whatever, forget about the font, so that I know next time I'll just look at the last elements and move away, because
Hmm.
that's what the inference is about. अगर मेरे को नहीं चेक करना है कि ऑस्ट्रिया मैंने क्यों डिसाइड किया, तो आई कैन गो एंड द बॉटम टू अप एंड डिसाइड कि ऑस्ट्रिया क्यों मैंने डिसाइड किया, तो उसमें से कुछ चेंज हुआ तो आई कैन रिविजिट दैट थिंग. And this kind of activity inference drawing chart, that's what they call. This is also another tool there, but let's not try to complicate matter.
Because that is what, maybe that is why I understood it wrong. That means I
No, no, no.
understood it as
You
like a
understood it
breakdown.
again,
But you're right. Logically, it makes sense that you give the reason why the
right?
end result is what is more important, right?
Exactly, right. And you're not doing anything wrong, man. The see, we have to just break down, be it activity, product, project, uh, or work, because we want to reach a conclusion. We want to understand how much the last element can be a decisive one. Because when you
Yeah,
say
right.
destination, I'm
Agree.
just thinking, right? I've just started thinking.
And then
Second
I
one,
should
I
have put
find
everything on the on the diamond shape, right? Because these are the decision making
you
things.
can, because of these are the activities, you can
Yeah,
clearly do that way.
I
See, we are
just
now
realized
mixing
it.
quite a few number of tools here, and that's how the maturity of analysis come to us. Because then one picture can give me a good result, and even if somebody asks you in discussions, or at a meeting, you can tell them, I try to merge quite a few tools here, and this is what you can call Lina's tool, and this is what I came to. This is how we devise, because analysis, it's like free board, whatever you thinking, and as per our seniority, as per our thought process, as per our evaluation of thoughts, we can bring this, we can pictoriate this. Could you understand what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
here?
yeah.
So
Got it.
tool
Yeah.
is just a matter of what you can say, use, right? You're using the tool
Yeah.
for getting this across, the communication across. If you can do it better with enhancing the tool, why not? You are going a step way ahead, because you understood the analysis, because
Mm.
you can use, you know for that matter, I can use this as an SOW chart, SWOT analysis as well, frankly speaking, because you came down to a conclusion with you analyze it, not clearly as OWT, but overall, right? We did it, the decision making process in here. So
Mm.
this is what I was talking about. This is a combination of thought processes, combination of what I required as an analyst, and I'm getting to a conclusion, something like that. So there's nothing wrong. Again, this is like the evolution of ourselves. This is what we are trying to learn. So unless and until you try this, you don't learn, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for bringing this up. Could we all understand what do you mean by combination of tool? Not necessary for the interview, not necessary for the even resume preparation, but this is for long-term analysis work. If you know the combination, if you can understand the combination of tools, we could really use any tool and get the result whatever we wanted, and we can depict it. The major, most important, crucial task what analysts do is basically present to development team all the requirement, all the vision, thought processes we got from the business, right? And that's why it's called business analysis. If you analyze data, if you analyze strategies, then you are strategic analysis, you are data analyst. Data analysis is just next step where you try to analyze the data. And now data analyst, data scientist, if you go to that far, can work on Excel only. Now wherever you go step ahead, you just using the tool in depth. Whatever you are using, you try to use it the way you like, so you can be a data scientist. So it's just a career progression then, because even today if you go to even big site like IEEE or IIBA, data scientists still don't have any definition. Analyst, we have a definition. Business analyst, we have a definition. But data scientists, they're still struggling with the definition, because science or research is a huge stuff. So whatever we are doing, the first few steps as a business analyst in data scientist, as in data scientist. Could you understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to unnecessarily glorify our work, but this is kind of first step, and data scientists can go get anything above 150K. Means if you can portray in that way, and that's what I want you to be in next few months, or at least a year. Means in a year you can portray yourself on data scientist, and we will learn the tools in process. We might learn bit of MS SQL, we might learn some good Excel techniques like the pivot chart. We might bang our head, but that's for the next year. And this is how we progress as an analyst. Anybody have any question for me? Any confusion at this moment?
So I have a question. And in this
Go ahead, please.
WBS chat of Lena G, can we
Uh,
or should we include the estimation, or that's what I mean, cost of Europe and
Ma'am, yes. What I've tried to say, Rina ji have done activity breakdown structure. So we'll come at a conclusive activity. Like she decided, she's let's take out the tree of destination, right? Or a branch of destination that we want to express it. So branch of destinations, zero down to Europe in first, second step. Third step, I've zeroed down to Austria because of might be the ticketing concession, might be the country which I have missed for last 3-4 years. I want to go there, something like that, right?
okay.
In that way, I have zeroed on Australia. So it's better to include the reason in the last step rather than estimation. In normally we have estimation also included in the fourth step or third WA step. That's what we call it, right? So
Okay,
that's what
taken
I was trying.
yeah,
Come again, please.
Not in Lena G's WBS. Take my WBS. In that WBS, I
Right,
have given each and every branch. So in the last branch,
right,
one one place I have given baby bottle feeding. So baby bottle feeding will take this much of time. Is that should be
right.
included or
No, no, not necessarily.
in,
Again, these are the tools, right?
not
They
necessary, right?
keep evolving. So you can use it the way you want. There is nothing
Okay.
wrong and right as of now. But we
Okay.
still try to learn and we still try to grow ourselves. And that's how I said, we can be a data scientist. We can be called as a data scientist also. But overall, just give me a minute, please. But overall, we need to understand. But overall, we need to understand the analyst is the first step of data research, data scientist. And this is what we are doing on data. We are breaking down the structure in terms of, estimation, in terms of activities and so on and so forth. And this is what the, research is all about. That's kind of next step of business analyst, right?
Yes.
Could you, does it answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank
No
you.
problem.
Perfect.
Let me share you some, WBS example video after this class, so you can go in depth, and we can have subsequent discussion if you want to. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's and if anybody have any question, please keep asking. Where's the PPT?
Sir,
Okay,
I also have a WBS to show.
please go ahead.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. I'll stop my share. Wait a minute. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so okay, I have done. I tried to do the work breakdown structure for banking app.
Uh-huh.
If I've been asked to build a banking app for at a very high level,
Right.
I can bifurcate it into the four parts. First would be the login screen. So in the login screen, I need to take care of the security. Like I mean, maybe client wants the two-step security along with the login ID password. They also need the OTP every time you want to log in. And then
Right.
I need to handle the situations like incorrect password, forgot ID, forgot password. These are the the um, for the segmentation of my login screen.
Right.
And then the second major chunk of banking app would be the welcome screen, where they will display my balance, and then they will provide me options to navigate through the site, like creating FDs if it is in India, or invest in stocks and shares if it is US. So these are the options which are more of a region centric options we need to put in, like
Right.
for which region I'm creating this app. And then the third major part would be the transaction screen, where I
Right.
would be able to transfer funds and check the status of the checks which are cleared or not cleared.
Right.
That would be the third major chunk. And then fourth would be the logout. At the logout, I need to make sure that it is I mean the cookies are being cleared, and cookie and cache is cleared, so that any unethical user will not trace that login again.
Perfect. Perfect. Now here I can go a step deep additionally, because when I say security two-step, I couldn't understand the estimation part of it. Right. I
Yeah.
couldn't really relate what are the two steps, or how can I go and estimate those things.
Yeah.
So I'll go a step ahead, because this is a second step WBS. That's what we call
Right.
banking at
I mean,
zero.
even every part of this banking app, like login, can be a different WBS, and I can create another
Exactly.
WBS chart for just for login screen, just for
Right.
welcome screen. So yes,
Right.
this
Very
is a
right.
very over high level bird's eye view of
Right.
starting a banking app from the scratch. But
Perfect.
yes, these elements are they are like they are a big chunk in on their own. So
Very
it
right.
can go to nth
Right.
level.
Right.
Yeah.
So, as your thought process is clear, you can clearly explain this, right? So, this is what we now want right now. So, try to understand the meaning of, you understood the meaning of WBS, you have created it by yourself, and you have explained it very well. The next step, previous step, we can keep doing it throughout our life. But yes, you created a perfect WBS, and we can go a step ahead to actually estimate it. And that's how we normally, what you can say, and try to understand. We are at a conclusive WBS state whenever we can estimate, or we can result if you are doing something like or we can do an inference whenever we are at the end of activity backgrounds. Okay, so that's the kind of beauty of WBSs.
Okay, sir.
Okay. And great work. Thank you. Great work, Mansi ma'am. Great work, Lina ma'am. Thanks a lot. And please keep doing these things, so that we can clearly understand like what you're learning, and how we can keep learning better and better. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you, sir. Yeah.
let's go and do a bit of. Okay, could you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So we've talked about WBS is one of the most basic and important project management tool set. Again, this is a project management tool set. Okay, we use as an analyst because we are kind of stepping stone for a project manager, and our next step can be a project manager. Next step can be a data scientist, and next step can be strategic analyst. Next step can be even. What you can say, data scientist, right? These are all words, but we are starting our career, and these are certain tools which are going to help us to go far. And that's how we started learning these things, right? So let's try to understand. WBS describe the plan outcome instead of plan actions normally, but we can have an action breakdown structure, and that those actions will result in an inference, result in a result, right? So that I can decide clearly, crisply based on those things. Then we can have product breakdown structure. We can basically broke it down to a single product, and that can be further broken down to different parts of the products. We can infer on a result, we can infer on a service that can be done, and we have to basically, as we go on explaining and detailing, we predicted the result, service or product accurately. That's why we use WBS. That's the main motto of using WBS, to assign element of WBS to any project or activity. So it's for us as an analyst to use WBS the way we perceive rather than what the others say. So other might say, you are unique for activity, like that guy said, right? American and British and all. There are all type of personalities in the world, and they try to categorize you. But still, me as an analyst, I have my own way of explaining things. I have my own way of presenting things as well. So me as an analyst, my performance should be crisp and clear about what I think rather than what others think. So if you can present yourself in that confidence, present yourself in that way, you are really way ahead than others. Okay, that's what the most important part I want to share with you. Now, what are the attributes? Attributes are basically things which we normally get attached to or get think on whenever we try to do WBS. So yes, it's a definable, it's easily understood by other project participants. So whenever Leela ma'am, Mansi ma'am or Dipti ma'am, whenever they are describing, we could clearly understand, right, what that each and every word in those box means. And that's how that's the beauty of WBS, and that's how we keep learning. Our thought process can be represented in WBS in a much crisp, clear way, right? And these are a manageable unit of work, what we talk about. So whenever we go to third level of WBS, we normally try to zero down to a decision, zero down to a product category or an estimation, right? So for that matter, these we are trying to make the whole bird's eye view to a manager decision making level, and that's how we use this WBS, and that's normally can be depicted in WBS as well, and that's a normal practice. So large box, mostly they are bigger than the others, because there we normally try to include conclusion, try to include estimates. Okay, again, it's a personal trait, so I might not include there, I might write as a footnote, I might write as an comment also. There are various tools for that. Even Microsoft Word, Excel allow you to comment, right? Have anybody used commenting in Microsoft Word or Excel?
Yes, sir, I have used.
Great, no problem. So I'll also share a video on that commenting thing, so that everybody else can learn. Because commenting is basically whenever you have the document and you don't want to update it, but you want to clarify the point in a step further. So what you do, we try to include comment. So I'm not disturbing the document, I'm just overlaying the comment, or I'm just pasting the comment on top of whatever is written or drawn there. Okay, so that's what the comment is all about. So I can zero down to inference level with the comment as well. So my last result, RAS decision, can be depicted there as a comment, right? And yes, every box is an independent. There could be repetitions, but these are independence, minimum interference with the or dependence with other ongoing elements. So I can try to build this independent work, independent activity breaks, so that I can come to a good result, come to a good estimation or inference for that matters, right? And assignable to a single control account or clearly distinguishable from other work package. Even I go from top to bottom, I'm being more granular, more clear, and I'm being evolutionary. So something like that. So we are trying to create WBS with the independent elements. We're trying to create WBS with each entity is definable separately. We are trying to do it for the better management, better control, better understanding of it, better in intergradation. What is integration? Again, it's a kind of breakdown, right? And we try to do this intergradation, we try to break down these work or activities to understand the cost estimate, right? So as an you go higher level, the cost estimate is basically building, summarizing of all the work, elements below them. So that's how it basically forms as a tree structure. So I can include an entire project, entire solution, entire service tree within one WBS. And then, as you know, Deepti ma'am say, I can have each block as a separate WBS also. And I can basically go to a level where I can estimate, I can infer why, what, and how, those kind of scenario. It's a measurable, yes. Whenever you go down from top to bottom, it becomes more and more measurable, more and more clear, more and more granular. And that's why we call it as a tree normally. Yeah, it's adaptable because it gives a clear inference, clear, auditory proof why we have gone depth, why we are evolved on the evolutionary tree here. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion here? We are just trying to understand the way WBS helps us out in a day-to-day life. Any confusion at this moment?
No,
No,
sir.
sir. No, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead. We also seen user story. Richa ma'am explained it clear, very crisp and clear. Okay. Now let's try to understand. There are many visual modeling tools available, like we see WBS, like we see HLD, like we see, even the SWOT analysis, fishbone diagram. These are all what we call visual modeling tools, right? So these visual modeling tools help us as an analyst in day-to-day our life, right? So as the organization, we are going to work for many different tools, but it's an organizational responsibility to train on a specific domain and specific tool to collect requirements. So what we did, we learned the basic tool set which are required for every analyst, be it something like, requirement gathering, building MOMs, trying to build the requirement, trying to consolidate a bird's eye view in HLD, try to explain each and every requirement as per the execution in use case diagram, in activity diagrams. We've seen that, right? Now, we also seen the document and the presentation part of it, how a BA present it to the business people, to the development team, to the technical team, and they take it up from there. I can be then in advisory mode, but still I am a crucial part. As in, I've understood the business of delegates of a client. I've started a new engagement, so that I am the basic critical element whenever the knowledge is getting transferred from a business to technical team. So that's why the business analysts are always in an advisory capacity whenever you normally go to through the construction phase. Whenever you try to build a solution, build a product or services, we are in an advisory capacity. Means our approval, our remarks does weigh down a lot. And how do we normally depict these things? You can clearly channel them to have a look at these HLDs, have a look at these use case diagram, have a look at the page number on SRS, and so on and so forth. That's how we work closely with the development team, right? And how do we do it? We use modeling tools. Infosys can have another new tool adopted 6 months down the line, and we'll learn it together. If you join TCS and they have something like fishbone diagram, we'll do some hands-on practice then and there after your job interview or before your job interview or before your final interview, so that we can closely understand why they use fishbone diagram. Because whenever a JD comes to us, whenever a job description for an analyst comes to us, we can understand what type of domain are you going to work. And if you are normally working with these guys, Japanese guys or Eastern European guys, they try to use some specific tool. There's a particular liking on a specific tool, so we'll work on that in depth. Some of the tools we had a good overview, but we haven't practiced in depth, so we will do them. Because for others, that tool is a bit cumbersome, and those tools try to sort out specific domain problem. Okay, so that's why we keep those tools on a back burner. It doesn't mean that we don't know of the know-how of the tool, or there could be a new tool coming on the way also. It's possible. So we'll learn then and there. It can be something like in a new micro or new pivot charts a consulting company might like, and we might use their day in day out. So we'll have a look at that whenever we are in a process of interviewing or after that, right? So whenever you go to join organizations, they will also train you, and I'm also there to train you, so that we can walk that extra mile. We can show our caliber in terms of analysts to the company and be that critical resource to the company. Because we know analysts, now we are going to learn, after analysts, we are going to learn quality assurance. The quality QM is what they call quality management uh, services, quality management model that company have adopted. Why, how? Then we're going to learn on quality control, the testing part of it, the verification and validation part of it, and then we go on a deep dive of agile. And agile is a project management methodology which used in a project nowadays, and within that we have a scrum is a flavor of agile. It's a what you can say evolved version of agile which we use normally, because it's go to a nth level and they use some particular templates, some particular wordings like auditory fact, they use some particular wording like user stories and so on and so forth. So we also revisit those things in our last phase, and that's how this whole business analysis training capsule is going to help us to be a critical element whenever you're going to work. As Devji have said, we are doing this training for a job. Okay, learning of course is the basic intention, but this is a job oriented training. So if there are any deviation on job, I'm there to help you out, and I'm there to basically guide you through those, and we're going to learn it together. There's nothing like finalized learning, right? We keep learning throughout our life, and we keep enhancing ourselves as per the job demands, as per if you can get better salaries, better remuneration, and so on and so forth. That's how we work. That's how we as a human evolve. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
But basically we need to understand what business analyst does as a person. If you understood that these tools are just a path to walk down, and we can even learn whenever we are on job. So please don't worry if somebody throws a name out, tool name at you which never seen. You can clearly say, I'm an analyst, I'm ready to learn the tools, and this is how we do. Because as I told you, there are companies in the world, they use some specific tool and they are using this for last 10-15 years. So we can't make them change. What we can do, we can adopt the tool and we can learn it and start working with them, right? Because if that job pays well, why not, right? Are you with me on this?
Yes.
Could you understand
Yes,
what I
sir.
have just?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Please keep saying yes sir, no sir, because if you
Okay.
can't understand, then I have to explain it again, right? And that's my learning. That's how I learn. So if you're not sharing your thought process, is difficult for me. Okay, so please don't
Sir,
stop thinking. Yeah, please go ahead.
so I think this is a silly question, or
Please don't worry.
whatever you.
Please go ahead. Yes.
What do you business analytics is there and business analysis is there.
Uh-huh.
So as a business doing business analysis, we ourselves calling as a business analyst, right?
Right, that's true. Analysis is a process. Analytics are the tools or tools name. Analysis, no man. I'm the analyst. So analyst
Yes.
is me as in person.
Yeah.
Analysis is a process. Analysts are basically, they try to depict the tools and all.
Yeah. And then what do you call the person who do business analytics?
Just give me a minute, please. Business analysis, see, analysis is a process. Analyst is a person, what I'm business
Yes.
analyst. You're going to
Yeah.
be business analyst.
Yeah.
Uh,
That I am clear. Then what we call the person who are doing business analytics?
No, analytics is just the way we do. That's again a process in execution, right? We are discussing on English linguistic.
Okay.
I believe we should have uh, who was there? I think Dina ma'am. Could you try to solve Mansa's problem, please?
I'm
I
not
need help
actually
here.
getting her question right. I don't know what is she trying to ask. Mansa?
No, she's trying to,
Yeah.
she's confused with the letters or the, verbos. What is analysis, analytics, and analysis? Is that right, ma'am? Could you please repeat your question?
Yeah, the process we are doing is business analysis.
Analysis is
And
a process which business analysts do.
yes, yeah,
Right.
that's right. And what is what do you call a person who is doing business analytics?
Analytics is the same way, ma'am.
It's the
Same
same
thing.
thing, I guess, business analyst.
See? Okay, okay,
See,
okay. Thank you,
analyst
sir.
is just analyzing, right? Just trying to
Yeah.
understand in depth.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the dictionary meaning of that word, it says studying in detail. So it's almost like scientist. That's why I have explained you. The next step can be
Okay.
a data scientist or a data analyst. Data analyst
Okay.
is kind of next step. We trying to understand the vision, then we study data. So vision might be captured by somebody else, and I'm working on that. Or there can be data, means there are a number of visions, or there are a number of problems from which I need to devise a solution. That's what data scientists do.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
I
Thank
know
you so much.
it can be confusing sometimes, but
Yes.
yes, we need to, see, even in IT, that's what I say. We tend to use some, really difficult word. It doesn't make anything. It can be, we can use simpler words, but that's the way, IT works. So we need to learn this word or to play around with this word. Does
Okay.
that make sense, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Lida, ma'am, was I right?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Or think it through and we can have these questions again discussed again. Okay, yeah, any question on
I'm good.
visual modeling?
I'm good.
No question, sir.
Okay, great. Now let's try to understand what we closely work with, development team. We closely work with even QA engineer. Let's try to understand this difference, right? Developer is a guy who construct things, who build these things. Quality engineer is a guy who checks this thing. Whatever developer build, the quality engineer keep checking it. So whatever developer have constructed, developer, constructor, or builder, whatever you can name it the way you want, the QA engineer basically checks those things. And how that overall, in terms of software code, how different, verbos or wordings we are used, we just have to have a, quick view on that. So we give BRS, business requirement specification, to a developer, which have translated into system requirement specification, which includes HLD. LLD is basically constructed at a design stage. Now all these latter three stages, the bottom three stages, they are getting evolved whenever the overall product life cycle progresses to the next steps, right? What is a life cycle? Okay, let's try to understand the word life cycle here. Life cycle is basically, we depict an evolution of an entity. What is a human life cycle? We take birth on this earth. We take a birth from a mother's womb. We basically start learning there. We evolve to a level. We can start understanding how to eat, how to play, how to think, and so on and so forth. And then we'll learn, then we'll add those knowledge base to our thinking, and we keep learning those things, and that's how we evolve, right? And then at the end of the day, we perish, we die, we become a dead entity, right? This is a life cycle of a person. Now every software has such life cycle. How do we depict it? Requirement gathering, we gather the requirement, we convert the vision to a requirement. Then we have designing or architecting phase, where based on this requirement, I construct something, I build something. It can be a solution, it can be a product, it can be a service, right? We've seen this. And then we check it, we validate it, we verify it with the requirements we gathered. So this constructed thing is basically getting validated with the requirement. Okay, and if we found any non-conformance, if we say we require white color and the product might have dirty yellow color, or dirty white color, then we need to conformance with the requirement. The conformance is basically getting aligned with the thought processes, right? So we confirm, right, this product whatever we created, this solution whatever we created is in line with the requirement. The requirements are normally taken by a business analyst. So I'm in an advisory position there. I'll take, boss, this doesn't look white, And I clearly said on page number 16, it needs to be white. I'm just trying to, give you an example, raw example. Okay. So something like that. So me as a business analyst, I am in a critical, crucial advisory position there. And that's how the overall life cycle progresses. And after I give a green to the product, project or solution, it goes to the deployment. Deployment means we hand over the project, product or services to the client. We start servicing client, we hand over the enhanced attendance management system to the state farm. We go there and implement it, and then we are in a support phase. Support is like if they have any problem with the product, if they have any challenges, or if they want to add anything to the product, then me or my company as a technical partner help them to do that. Then we start another project, right? Because we are enhancing it. We can build a product, like we can start building, let's say, fountain pen for that matter. So there, as a business analyst, I gather the requirement, which kind of pen you need. Do you need ink pen, ball pen, this pen, that pen? Do you need blue color pen? Do you need red color pen? Do you need purple color pen? These are all requirements collected by a business analyst. So what I collect specification. So normally I collect system requirement specification, I wrote it down, I build a bird's eye view, so that whatever I have understood after discussion of business people, I build those, bird's eye view, and I hand it over to the architects and the designer of the world, and they try to detail this design further, me guiding them on how and what not, and so on and so forth. So we create a detailed design that's called low level design. It's a detailed design, it's a component level design. So we can test each and every component there. I can test the cap separately, I can test the refill separately, I can test the nip if it's an ink pen, or the size, weight, lift, and all attributes of this component can be tested by QA engineer. Okay, and if I do a coding might have number of programs, right? That's what developer does. He write programs. Programs is basically a combination of certain instruction which we give to the computer. Okay, so these coding, they have a unique coding program. We can have multiple programs. Now these programs make a module or a component. Now this module, so there's a unit. Program is a unit. If you talk about software language, so software code is my one unit. My one component of a pen is my one unit. My one service is my one unit. Okay, could you understand the grouping here?
Trying to, yeah.
Yes, I can understand. There are lots of wheel churning and I can hear it out. See, why I'm trying to tell you this, because as an analyst, how I closely work with the progress of a product, project, or services, that's what I'm trying to tell you. And this is really crucial because we are going to start a work, right? And you have to understand the importance, the criticalness of an analyst. We convert the vision to a requirement, and then others build on those requirements, and the QA engineer validates those things. Whatever we written, if I have written I need a blue pen, the pen should be blue, as simple as that. So the QA engineers written somewhere blue pen to be used in such and such scenario. So those things, and that's how the QA engineer functions, and that's how the QA engineer basically works. That's why it's an important part of analysts to review these workings, to review these documents, or what they call test cases. We'll come to that, learning why test cases, why not, and all those things. But just trying to understand the importance of a BA, right? And I believe you could understand. Any confusion on how the unit thing can be built into a group or a product, project, or services? So whenever we go bottom to up, the unit testing, this is a singular program, have a component testing, multiple program we test. Then we have multiple modules integrated together. It's called system testing. And then we have many systems also. There could be many systems also, right? If you take an example of our enhancing attendance management solution, we normally talk about attendance management. We talk about leave management. We talked about overall salary distribution. So these are different modules we talk about. These are different systems altogether. These are different solutions which we are talking about, and we talk about their testing. Means they should work together. This is each and every system working together. This is system testing which are working all together, and acceptance. So whenever I hand over these things to user, they have a way of testing, right? So if I go and purchase a new pen, I'll write it down. I'll try to write it down, right? I'll see how it feels while you write the pen. This is how we do it. That's what we call acceptance testing. So whenever you have complete product with you, you try to test it from a user perspective, or user test it with his hand, with his way of working. So that's what we call user acceptance testing or acceptance testing, right? We will learn each of these blocks in coming week. That's what we call testing. So this is how the developer works. This is how the QA engineers work, based on our documentation. So could you understand the criticalness of the system requirement specifications now?
Yes, sir. I have one question.
Go ahead, please.
So, sir, like for unit testing, or for the acceptance testing,
Uh-huh.
are they using BRD as a reference document, and for system testing, they are using SRS as the reference document to build the test cases, right?
Okay. Could you recall whenever I said our SRS is based on BRD,
Yes, yeah.
and then that SRS is getting converted to the FRS. Okay. So BRD is my first, SRS is my second, FRS or functional requirement document or functional requirement specification is my third. Normally, FRS have all those low level designs, the component level design. So FRS is normally referred, and as I told you, that's a Bible for any product, services, or a solution, right? So FRS is also based on BRD indirectly, right? So whatever I create as a first translation, that's the first step towards the visualization of a product, the conceiving the product scenario, right? So everything is based on BRD, because BRD, this is how we started. But there could be some detailing, there could be some enhancement to the BRDs, there could be some additions to the BRD, and that's what we add in SRS. And then there are further additions or detailing in FRS. So normally when an IT person asks you, so what do you think the testing is based on? Testing is based on functionality which are listed in FRS. That could be the interview answer, theoretical answer. Practically, the FRS includes BRD as well as SRS, because it's evolved document from these three steps. Does that make sense, ma'am?
Yes, sir. So I was just trying to analyze the lines between the middle lines, which are connecting BRD and acceptance testing, SRS and system testing, HLD and SIT.
These are the evolution we talked about. No, BRD. Okay.
These lines,
You're
connecting
taking it
lines.
wrong. You're taking it wrong. There's no direct connection between, okay, yes, this diagram is then faulty in that scenario. Yeah. So, I believe this line can be knocked off, frankly speaking, because BRD, see, BRD is
No, no,
normally
I
given by
think
client. No. Let me tell you why they have these lines. This diagram taken from IIBS book, and this is how it gets confusing if you interpret it separately. Let's take it. These are all connected to each other, right?
no.
BRD is given to us. Listen to me. BRD is given to us by client in a normal scenario. Means there are companies who make the BRD and then get it signed off from client. But normal scenario, 99% BRD hand it over to the client. BRD is coming to us as an IT solutions company. We receive the BRD from a client, and that's how we start building SRS. Now BRD, as I told you, normally in an email with 6 to 7 bullet points, we would discuss this thing, right? So we evolve those 6 to 7 points to 50-20 pages, so that we create a system requirement specification. Me as an analyst, we do these things, right? We own the SRS. So SRS is basically a clear, crisp, independent view of BRD, which is evolved from BRD, which is based on BRD, right? So whenever I hand over something to the client will say, boss, मैंने आपको document दिया था ना, वो लाओ ना एक बार. उसमें मैंने लिखा था कि white चाहिए, अब ये blue क्यों है? ये कहाँ से रेफरेंस कर रहे, वो रेफरेंस बीआरडी को करेगा, बिकॉज बीआरडी उसने आपको दिया था, राइट? जिसके ऊपर आपने थॉट प्रोसेस बनाया, जिसके ऊपर आपने विजन सॉल्यूशन बनाया. कुड यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से हियर?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
हाँ, तो अगर मैंने आपको बीआरडी दिया था, if I have shared the BRD with you, I'll ask, so is it really confirmed to the BRD? So then you'll get down to the SRS level. Sir, this is what I have approval for you, so that blue was a light blue, and that's why we given you light blue, because that's how the thought process has been evolved at your end. And these are the parties where they said ki no, blue की जगह मेरे को sky blue चाहिए. So that's why we've given sky blue as in color to you. I'm just trying to share the thought process, clear the thought process with these examples. Does this make sense, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So SRS evolution, SRS traceability is that crucial. Even the traceability from SRS to the FRS, the functional requirement specification, is a crucial, because there you can clearly mention कि Ravindra Pandey have said on date 1st January 2020 कि no, dark blue color doesn't suit our company's work ethics, so let's convert it to the sky blue color. Sir, see, this is what this is your dignitary, right, Ravindra Pandey. So he said here, and there's a signature of him and the VPHR and whatnot. This is how it got approved. So this is how the conformance work in a software solution way. And that's why the traceability is important, the traceability or evolution of a thought process. Because जब मैं पहली बार सोचता हूँ कि मेरे को एक ड्रेस लेना है, so पहली बार ये नहीं सोचता हूँ मैं कि मेरे को साड़ी चाहिए, मेरे को I don't know what all Punjabi dress चाहिए. I start thinking on color first. If you know the business the human psychology, right? मेरे को लाल लेना है, so लाल क्या अच्छा लगेगा, साड़ी अच्छा लगेगा कि पंजाबी ड्रेस अच्छा लगेगा. And this is how I start thinking. That's why we have to maintain that traceability within this document. किस thought process का evolution कहाँ हुआ था, कहाँ पे client ने change किया था, ये product client के लिए बना रहे अपन. These products, the enhancement system is for State Farm, not for the Infosys. I work for Infosys as an analyst. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a difference. So that's why I normally depict the evolution. That's why I normally build this traceability. And that's what the acceptance testing is, the last phase, because I hand over the product to the State Farm, and then State Farm can go through those documents. Okay, these are the approvals, these are the traceability mention, and these are the functionality which is finalized in FRS, and that's how the product got built. So whatever you said, this is what we did. And that's what the conformance is on matter. Ravindra Pandey might not work with State Farm whenever this product got deployed, right? But his approval, his sign, signature, stamp, or the cloud trace, we have clearly mentioned on the document, so that he said, okay, light blue color. And then client agrees, okay, yes, Ravindra Pandey was working with us as an VPHR, and he have guided you. That's right. Now then client will say, okay, could we change it to the dark blue? Say, yes, why can't we change it? And this is what the cost to change it to the dark blue color. And this is how the software engagement works, on and on. And this is how the real life scenario is also, right? मेरा वाला लाल, मेरा वाला ग्रीन, ये भी चलते रहता है कि मैंने लाल लेने के लिए गई थी लेकिन ग्रीन ड्रेस अच्छा लगा तो ग्रीन लेके आई, बट नेक्स्ट टाइम फिर भी आने के बाद मेरे को लगा कि नहीं यार लाल ड्रेस चाहिए मेरे को एक, सो मैं नेक्स्ट टाइम जाके लाल ड्रेस लेके आती हूँ. Do I have to pay for true test? Yes, but this is my liking. This is how I work, right? This is what I like to work. And this is how we evolve day by day. So evolution, additions, modification is a part of the project. Don't ever think कि additions मैंने गलत किया करके add कर रहा हूँ. नहीं, 99% of the time it's an enhancement we talked about, and correction we talk about. We talk everything in a positive way. And as an analyst, this is what we need to depict. Okay. There could be n number of inferences what you can draw from a drawing, but try to put it in the most positive way. And this is also kind of learning for the interview as well as for the presentation. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Sir, I still have some questions here.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sir, so here SRS and HLD are owned by BA, and
That's
LLD
right.
same as functional FRS.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll be the author.
No. LLD is not owned by us. LLD is owned by
LLD.
architect and
Yes,
they're based on
LLD is the functional
HLD,
requirement
right?
document. I know.
Yes, they're based on HLD.
Yes. So we will be owning SRS and HLD, right?
Right, ma'am.
Okay. And sir, I was just trying to understand these connections, like SIT, like system integration testing. What I infer from this, is SIT, the test cases which testers are writing for SIT, they are derived from, they are using HLD as the base document.
you can reference component to the modules to be built. Means set of programs can be referred to a block. That's right.
Right. So, here whenever
Ma'am, we are making others uncomfortable. Believe me, you are going way ahead. I know you know quite a few things in detail, but others have to understand this SIT, the module, the component bundle, and those part of the world. We are going to learn that in QC in depth.
yeah, no, these horizontal lines, I'm just trying to understand that
They are
why.
kind of reference line. We can
Yeah.
delete them. They shouldn't be one-to-one. Means SRS can be referred in component testing as well, or same LLD can be referred in the system testing as well. See,
Okay.
when say the cap is not working with the pen,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Means one component is not working with the pen. We basically try to infer this thing in SIT, system integration. That's where we connect the components together, right?
Yeah.
So there could be LLD रेफरेंस इन SIT ऑल्सो, क्योंकि अपन ने अगर पेन के लिए कैप बनाया और वो फिट नहीं हो रहा है, जैसे हमारे इंडिया में होता है कि हमने ब्रिज बनाया लेकिन वो रोड को पूरा खा रहा है, सो ब्रिज इज यूजलेस.
Yeah.
हाँ, सो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. अगर मैंने कैप बनाया इंक पेन के लिए और मैं बॉल पेन तैयार कर रहा हूँ, तो कैप लेके क्या करूंगा मैं? इट्स अ वेस्ट ऑफ टाइम ना, एक वेस्ट ऑफ मनी. सो जिस किसी डिजाइनर या आर्किटेक्ट ने वो बनाने का उसको ऑर्डर दिया था, आई फाइंड हिम एंड बीट हिम. Not in the real world, but
Yeah.
आपको पता चला. So I'll penalize him, and that's why we have this evolutionary process. हम लोग क्या करते हैं? पहले we understand the vision, we convert it to the requirement. The requirements are then detailed out, and then we start constructing. And side by side testing भी चलता है. So whenever मैं पेन का एक मॉड्यूल का कैप का ऑर्डर देता हूँ, तो टेस्टर बोलता है अरे नहीं ये कैप बड़ा हो रहा है. तो बोलता है क्यों यार बड़ा क्यों हो रहा है? अबे अपन ये बना रहे बॉल पॉइंट पेन बना रहे हो, आप इंक पेन का कैप बना रहे हो. सो बोले अरे सॉरी. फिर उसको करेक्ट करके करेक्ट वाला मॉड्यूल देगा बनाने के लिए. कुड यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से हियर?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So this is how the thing works on a real day. So we are all closely work. This is what the agile is. This is what the scrum is. That's why we have daily scrum meeting, so that if anybody is giving ink pen's cap for the ballpoint pen, it's get corrected then and there. We have the least amount of cost. We'll come to this cost of quality also. We'll learn what you mean by cost of quality. Okay. So please don't get confused between these arrows and the numbers. This is a kind of evolutionary picture we are talking about. So there could be one too many arrows. SRS can be related to component testing also, or can be referred in component testing also. But वैसा diagram निकालेगा ना तो आप सब लोग भाग जाएंगे. Believe me. This is a diagram I copied it from IIBA book. This is really good. This depicts the overall referencing how it happens, rather than this is not a kind of I'll say they try to portray it as a simple diagram rather than complicating the matters. On ground, we might refer to many documents, but again, these are all evolved from BRD. So BRD के साथ reference traceability रहता ही है मेरा. So even in component testing, I can refer BRD, right? And this is how it works. We normally create that user stories. We normally create those auditory fact or traceability matrices, so that if there is a confusion, contradiction, I can refer to all these documents, and any one of these documents can give me the corrected value. Does that make sense, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Great. No problem. Any other questions? And for others, pardon me, we got on to the SITs and those the words. This we are going to learn in QA QC model, which is coming next. Okay. So please hold on. I might have talked because of the question, but yes, we are going to learn step by step. And now we are getting into the shoes of analysis, so I expect such questions. Please don't worry about asking questions. Okay, I encourage you to ask questions, and this is how we learn. This is how we keep building our knowledge. Okay, anybody confused at this moment? Any challenges in understanding? I know there are a lot of things to be collected here. So we are trying to learn some difficult words, difficult verbs, so that we can be in a part of IT, and that's how we learn. Okay, so let's move ahead. Now, this is kind of older thing. I just want to reviewed by you, so that we can relate whenever if somebody asks what is SQL. SQL is sequential query language. In good old days, this was in 1920s and 1930s. Whenever we tried to build a computer, the first version of computer are basically related to the, oh man, okay, they were basically started as an information system. So they used to store knowledge. They used to store various data elements, which has to be recovered by the users with a query, right? So this is what the query is all about. Now we build a language based on how we can ask a computer to get the data to us. So what they call, it's called sequential query. So I ask questions, I get an answer, then I ask second question and I get answer. If everybody start asking questions, I can't answer. Does that make sense? Think it through. Why sequential? Why not parallel query language?
Right.
So we try to create a solution to in good old days of how I can ask computer, how I can ask queries to a processor or a queue-based system. Let me come to that. Think it through.
Okay, we can ask questions, but not all at a time, right?
Exactly. So that's why we have something called sequential query language. Okay, so that's why we called it sequential query language. It's a sequence intended. Sequence is basically included in the overall query languages, right? And that's why basically we are trying to build a sequential query language. This was in late 1950s. We came up with this template for sequential query languages. Now we ask the processor or the computer one by one questions, and that's how we get that. Now there are some elements to these queries. There are some structure, there are some database, there are some tables, there are some entities, row, column, record, and all those things. Let's try to understand that thing. If you are being interviewed by an old analyst, a very senior analyst, they might ask you, so do you know about sequential query language? So you can say, yes, I know about sequential query language. You're not a database developer, but knowing sequential query language and the philosophy behind it is a need. Is basically what older business analysts used to do. When you talk about business analyst or the project manager in those good old days, this was predominantly from 1960s to 1990s. Project manager was working as an analyst. So they used to do this sequential query language. There's a software called SQL. The software might be from Microsoft. It's called Microsoft SQL, MS SQL. From other companies like Oracle, they have a database, their database. So we have Oracle SQL. There's a database called Sybase. So we have Sybase SQL. So they have different query languages because every processor have a way of asking and retrieving the data. So there are different query languages. Every computer has its language, right? So if a Chinese make a computer, they'll work in Chinese. So I need to basically query him in Chinese, right? Similarly, we have different set of processors, different set of computers where these query languages are different. So what the computer company will say, oh, okay, now I have built a computer which is works on Microsoft SQL as well as Sybase SQL. Now, Microsoft and Sybase are the companies, are the type of databases. They have certain structure inbuilt in them. So rather than standardizing query languages, I made a few changes. And then I released this document for my query languages so that anybody can ask questions and they need to just follow this set of rules, right? So that set of rules is called structures. So I have a structure. We've seen in Excel, right? Excel, there's a table. So table have a heading, table have a row, we have a row is a column, no, that's totally wrong. Row is a record, column is basically type of data, and this one cross section of row and column is called cell. That's single entity of data. Could you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and now we are trying to understand in a sequential query way, because in interview they might ask, do you know sequential query? You have to say yes. And we are going to learn this SQL as an overview. We are not a database programmer, and nobody expects you as of modern day today. This practice has been banned for last 10 odd years, but still there could be a very senior business analyst who might ask you, so do you know SQL? So you have to say yes. SQL is sequential query language. So you say, how does SQL works? Yes, SQL have many flavors: Microsoft SQL, MySQL, your SQL, PostgreSQL, and this SQL, that SQL. Depends on the database we are trying to access. We need to choose a right uh, set of commands to retrieve data from that database, and that's how the sequential query language works. So it's a sequential query. Now it works in a parallel, but we still call it a sequential query language. So now what I do, I write a program in SQL depending on the database, wherever I try to retrieve the data from. I use the same permutation and combination. As I told you, right, program is a set of permutation and combination of a specified request which I send to a computer. So I build a SQL program, I write it for a Microsoft SQL database, so I need to write it in a Microsoft sequential query language. That's the most widely used database in the world today. And then we have Oracle database, then we have Sybase, Ingress, and there are hundreds of such databases. Now, as of today, Microsoft SQL, and there's something called MySQL, which is an open system database. Let me, show you what I mean by open system. They were scientists in good old days. They have basically, kicked out from the employment due to certain reasons, and they started their own company. And what they said, we are scientists, we are not a businessman, so we create some software which is free for all. So anybody and everybody can use it as they feel, and this is free. They can even modify the software. So this is what we call open system license. So you are free to use. You are free to use for a certain things, but there could be some restrictions also in open systems. Like if you are using it commercially, then you have to pay some percentage to them. Otherwise, it's called community edition. Community edition is like free for all. You go to community college, you go to community garden. Community garden is like common society garden. You don't pay to enter, right? But if you go to a private garden like Disney Park and those parks of the world, you need to pay them. But to a community garden, you don't need to pay them to enter or to enjoy your happiness. So for that matters, something like that, open system are free for all. There could be restrictions if you have started using commercially. So I can't go and put up my stall in a community garden saying, okay, now I'm going to sell burgers. I can't do that because it's for community, it's not for commercial purpose. Could you understand the openness, the communityness, and the other part of it like commercialness in this?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take it everybody's understanding this thing. Now, same thing happened with sequential queries also. So there is something called MySQL, which is a community's database. Now MySQL is very popular because that database have came in a long way. It is evolved with something like Microsoft SQL Server also. So many of our system nowadays, specifically websites, are based on MySQL. But there are community edition and there are professional editions as well. So if you want to use it commercially, you can pay them. Normally what happens, I started my project with a community edition and then I think, oh man, now I want to use it commercially. So what I do, I write to this MySQL guys, say, hey MySQL company, now I want to use it commercial. Say this, okay. So आप commercial use करें. What are the what type of commercials are you putting it? He say, okay, I'm going to earn 100 million a year. Okay, so give me 20K per year as a licensing fee or a professional licensing fee. So you say, why I should pay 20K? You say, okay, then I'll have this support working for you. I'll have a specific resources allocated for your support so that jab bhi, whenever you call, these resources are there to answer. For community, yes, the support is quite vague. You don't get the support as quick as possible as you can get professionally. So there's a difference, right? So every penny does count. फुकट में कुछ नहीं मिलता है. So how do you do it? You have a two separate support bench, one for community, like एक दुखी बंदा बैठा रहता है who don't know most of the things, but yes, he's there as a community support. And then there's a professional support where we have trained support resources. So the company likes those things, they buy this support in the name of license. So that's how that openness and the community and community to professional conversion does work, right? So for that, as of today, we have two important database, most crucial, or three rather, I'll say, because the distribution varies as per the days and months and the years of the world. So let's try to understand. MySQL, open system, MS SQL is licensed. Oracle is also a license. These are the three major database in the world. And then there's a fourth called big data. Now, big data is a kind of collection of databases. So how does that work? So big data is a distributed database. Now these have their servers where my data is resides. So whenever I create an Excel sheet on my laptop, the data resides on my laptop. So my laptop can be called as a database server because that Excel sheet which has a data is residing on my laptop. Something like that for an organization, there could be a database server. So it's a collection of data set. It's a collection of, you know, MS SQL table, Oracle table, or MySQL tables, or mix and match of that thing. Or there could be 10 such servers in the world. So I call it set of servers, right? Set of database server, which is a distributed database. So what I call it as a big data, right? It's a huge data. Might be, you know, some in India, some in US, some in China, some in Japan, and so on and so forth. So there's a different type of even servers included there, and I collectively access them. So it's called big data. Okay, I'm just sharing this from the interview perspective. So you should know this word, and we will revise this word, or I'll share the link so that you can revisit that, you know, whatever I have talked about. So this is how that SQL query has been evolved. It started with a single, you know, computer. I'm asking questions. Now I have systems all together. I have many products and services where I ask queries to them. Okay, and then there are these way of asking things. Those ways has to be also built, programmed. So my server has to know when Ravindra Pandey asks me what's your name, I have to tell him in a particular way. So there are specific credential required. There are specific authentication or authorizations required, right? Because Ravindra Pandey can't go to FBI and ask, please delete all my cases, right? Can I do that? Can I go to police and say कि boss जो मैंने खून किए थे वो निकाल दो आपके रिकॉर्ड से? Can I do that? No, right? So for that, I need to make respective credential check, access check, what Ravindra Pandey can do and can't do. So I build this credential thing. These are called access records, right? So those scenarios. So every database has such authorization and authentication processes independently. And then I process this query based on the request, how it comes to me. So whenever Ravindra Pandey asks a query, he'll have his credential with it. And then I'll decide, is he authorized to do that? No, then don't give information. I'll clearly say there's an error happened. If he's authorized, then I'll say, okay, do you have the data? I have the data. Okay. So which are the tables? Is it in India? Is it in North America? Is it in Chinese, Japan, wherever? Okay, I found it. Okay, so I'm delivering him the data. And it's in a structure normally. So I'll return him. He has a query. Give me the cost for latest red color Punjabi dress. This was my query. Now Amazon server came to me, red color Punjabi dress for size X, XL, medium, large. These are the different prices. These are the different colors. But hey, if you go for a green, I'll give you $10 discount. That's also additional database, additional data element which Amazon provides to me, right? And this is what the analysis and building reports is all about. So I ask query, I get reports. I ask single element, data element, I can get another supporting data element with that also, right? So this is how the database works. So what is a database? It's a collection of records, collection of cells, collection of data entities. Does that make sense? Are we there?
Yes, yes.
Great,
Yes,
great.
sir.
I know it's difficult, but as in what you can say, phase of analysis or the evolution of analysis, we have to understand these things. I know these are a bit technical for you. There were courses for SQL for being an analyst. This is how the analyst career started. So if you see any old job posting, you might say, okay, SQL, advanced SQL required, something like that sort. And even today also, many of this analyst company where analysts are like just one analyst and they are doing all the, they are putting up all the hats. He is required to perform some basic SQL commands as well. So we'll learn some basic SQL command like we did click in Excel. We have certain SQL commands, okay, but we'll learn just the basic. Now learning SQL is not at all required, but if somebody asks a question, you should be able to tell what is SQL, what is a structure, why we need a structure, what is a database. Database is a collection of tables. So Excel file is a database because we normally have 3 sheets, right? So we normally have 3 tables. It can be blank table. So whenever say Excel file new, it creates a database. So it's a combination of tables. Now what is a table? Rows and columns. Each entity is a row, and normally row is a record where I have Ravindra Pandey address book as an Excel sheet, right? So what will be there? It will be Ravindra Pandey name, Ravindra first name, Pandey last name, the number, if he uses WhatsApp and blah, 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 blah thing. So all those things can create a database. So my database is basically an entity or collection of tables, collection of rows and columns, records, right? And how do I give access? I give access through credentials. I can have multiple accesses. So Ravindra Pandey is a famous man. So he might need to be, his contacts might be needed for hundreds of people. So I have to build some restrictions around it to access. So I build some credential, authorization or authentication services so that my data is secure. My data can't be accessed by Tom, Dick and Harry. Only person which I grant access can access my data. So as a database server, I own the data. Right, so I provide these credentials to them, and then there are specific queries or query depending upon what the user is asking to you or what other computers is asking to my computer as well. So this is how the sequential query thing works. Could you understand these elements?
Sir, what is structure?
Structure is a defined way. See, every computer have their own way of asking, right? We are speaking in English. So whenever I speak to English, I have to construct a sentence. I have to have a structure of sentence. If I speak English from Marathi, that's my mother tongue. Will that make sense to you? Ma'am, I asked you a question.
Yeah, but
You
I
can
understand
understand.
that.
Yeah,
I
you can understand, right? But if every sentence has a structure, you can understand it crisp and clearly, right?
okay, the structure of that SQL query
Yes. So
we are talking about.
every query, even for that matter, every database should have a structure, right? So every language, every region should have a structure of communication. That's what we talked about. So structure is pertaining to the table as well as the communication. So as we say, row has to be a record. Can I put record in a column? Yes, but not advisable, right? Because आज सब लोग अगर करता है तो अपन सब लोग के साथ चलता है. सब लोग अगर राइट हैंड ड्राइव करता है तो वी विल ड्राइव राइट हैंड. सब लोग अगर लेफ्ट हैंड चलाता है तो हम लोग लेफ्ट हैंड गाड़ी चलाएगा. अगर राइट हैंड वाले गाड़ी के साथ मैंने लेफ्ट हैंड वाली गाड़ी निकाली, आपने ट्राई किया क्या कभी?
हाँ, मैंने यूएस में ट्राई किया था लेफ्ट हैंड.
Exactly. So that's the fun part of it. So this is what we call structure all about. Okay. Nothing against you as in personality. I'm trying to share the overall understanding, overall making us easier to understand. And so every structure has an advantage, and that's why we use a common structure. That's what we call. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So the structure is the predefined rules, the set
Right.
of rules.
Set of rules. That's very rightly said, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And then we all understand database, table, entities, row, column, records. Any confusion there? Again, this is specifically interviews preparation rather than analysis. Now we are going into each and every tool's detail. SQL was one of the important tool previously. Nowadays, nobody asks you to query such thing. But even if that, we have to know certain basic commands so that if there is any senior business analyst taking interview, he might ask you, so do you know SQL? Say, I know SQL. So which SQL have you worked on? No, sir, I'm not a database developer. I'm an analyst. I know philosophically what SQL is, how the database works, how the record set works, how the access credentials can be given, how the standardization of queries is evolved, and what are the major databases. So we have Microsoft SQL database, we have MySQL database, we have Oracle database, and so on and so forth. So there could be any databases. Your company can use your own database. There are companies who have created their own database, like NASA. They have their own database, which is a proprietary. I couldn't remember the exact name. Now that's also a kind of evolution of a MySQL database. So you can call it NASA MySQL database because they have created their own structure. What differs? The structure differs. They can call table as in data collection on ASA. So the nomenclature differs. Okay, and this is how we evolve in a life. Okay, anybody have any question for me at this moment?
I'm good.
No, sir.
There are confusions, so I'll share the recording right away after this, this session, so that you can have a look at it whenever you have time. Might be tomorrow or something like that. Okay, so let's move on. Now let's try to understand this SQL as of now, how it's evolved, and how these basically relate to us, how it basically serves to us as a user, right? Let's start to now. User is a person who is using, who is asking, right? So let's try to put it in a simplest possible way. So structured query language is used to interact with the databases. We've seen that a database is nothing but a software system to store data for a later usage. So what database does, it archives knowledge, it archives data, it archives records, right, for a later use. If you don't save the data, you can't use it later. अगर मैंने मेरा डॉक्यूमेंट सेव नहीं किया, मेरा एक्सेल शीट सेव नहीं किया, सो कंप्यूटर क्या बोलेगा, अबे सेव नहीं किया तो मैं कैसे तुमको लाके दूं, राइट? अगर आपने सेव किया तो बोलेगा यस यस यस, ये फोल्डर में आपने सेव किया था, नाउ यू कैन रिट्रीव एंड स्टार्ट रीडिंग इट. डज दैट मेक सेंस टू यू?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
No problem. And this is what we need to understand. That's all it requires as a business analyst. Okay, you might go into detail, Deepthi ma'am, and there are a couple of participants. They have worked on SQL previously, so they can give you a good overview in terms of how and what as well. But for an analyst, this is what we required: an overview of an SQL. That's all. Okay, let's try to learn it to example. When you register a website as a user, website saves your data like name, user ID, password. Like if you try to create a website of your own, there are free website also. You can create a few pages of your own, and then you can share that link with everybody in the world so that they can view it whenever they have time. Now how does that happen? I have created something. I have told that computer to put the data in a specific format. I have told it how to what format to use, how to show it to that also. So website is a basically set of data or many entities put together, including the look and feel as well. So I have told the computer the site should be in a red, site should be in a white, site should pop up with this button, site should let you choose the color, let you choose the clarification, and supply with the data required by the users. And that's how I create my website, right? It's called user-centric website, if I may use that word. So everything is to be user-centric. Okay. Now let's try to understand the one step ahead. When you enter your user ID password, we are talking about credentials. We are talking about authorization, authentication, accesses. So login box is my authorization services or credential check services, right? So whenever you enter your user ID and password in a login box, it checks that the data with the saved information, and if the data found or data enter is matched. So database में आपका password save रहता है कहीं तो भी. It's in an encrypted format. So database, administrator also can't read that thing, but still it's saved somewhere, which is normally validated with the last used password, what you use set up. Because my banking account, I set up password. So that password is saved somewhere with an encrypted way. Okay, let's not go into the encryption and decryption. Why encrypted? Because other than you, nobody can access that password, right? So similarly, so there are some restrictions. And even while clearing the credentials, I use these database services to get it proved that whatever I am the user who have visited that website or a database whenever it was accessed successfully last time. And that's how we check. Now SQL is again as a language. We have programmer, we have IT professional to interact with these databases. They have devised these rules. They have improved these rules. They have modified these rules for the ease of the users. Okay. So right now I can access my database via website. So I can have online access, right? I can have online emails, like previously used to access emails with a command. Now we have web-based email services. The Hotmail was the first webmail email services, which is then purchased by Microsoft, created by Jagdish Bhatia. He's Indian, right? And that's how we basically evolved in terms of each and every program. So we use the best of the other programs and try to modify my program. So even database system, the SQL have been modified to a level where I can shout and the computer can retrieve data for me. Like we call voice activated services. Have you heard of these things?
Yeah.
So there are many voice activated databases nowadays, or even I can go to an ATM and shout my name and number and he can dispense cash for me. That's also have been done possible, but yeah, there are some challenges. So they've stopped that services. So you can see those services in some movies also as in satire, as in critics, they have put those things there. But yes, we've tried many things with the databases as well. So whatever databases we have today, they are also evolved. So now the sequential query language is mostly like English, right? We'll have a look at some set of commands there as well. Don't worry. And then formerly a database known as database management system. Now every database, as we normally tend to name each and every software, so we name the database system as a database management solution, database management system, and then we gone ahead and basically name it as a relational database management system software. Relation means I have many Excel sheet, I have many tables, now they are related to each other, so I create a dependency, right? So those kind of scenario I built. So it's a relational database management system. Oracle, Microsoft SQL, MySQL are basically some of the RDBMS, popular database system which we use today. Database system has many components, right? We have a storage, management of data, a table. There are many tables. There are queries. There are sequential queries. There is stored procedure queries. Stored procedure query is stored program which has access, so that when I ask somebody, please give me all residents staying in St. Louis area. Okay, so for that, the records might be in millions. So what I do in a database, I convert this statement to a program, which is called stored procedure. Now this, pardon me, stored procedure is a pre-programmed SQL query, which is executed whenever whenever I ordered a refined query. So whenever I triggered this stored procedure, my command internally runs many queries, might be hundreds, might be at 10,000, depending on the procedure I already programmed. Okay, so these are just words they've used. It's okay if you can't remember all, but whenever we do interview preparations, we might get this thing refined as per the current interview scenarios. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Yes, and I know I'll not trouble you much. Let's try to understand. Let's try to take a step further. Now, when what is schema? Now we talked about structure, right? Now, as we say, there are many databases. Normally, we build a schema. So, what is a schema? We build a set of rules for a given database, be it MySQL, MS SQL, Oracle, Sybase, or what it may be. Every database has a schema. So whenever I implement database in my company, I want every table to be red color header. Possible, right? I can do that because it's my database. So for every such database, they have a certain schema. They don't go to such extremity, but yes, there are certain set of rules. So whenever you create a table in a given database, I have to follow the schemas attached to the database. These are the set of rules devised by the database guys who have administered the data, right? So for that matter, schema might have a table can't extend beyond 250 columns. Happen, right? I can devise such rules, right? I might have some reasons, but I can do that, right? So this is how I define some set of rule, which is called schema. This again, structure is a very common thing. Schema is a particular to a database, right? Database for a company, for a particular installation rather than a database, right? So let's try to understand. There could be tables. Now, what is a view? A view is a temporary table. So whenever I ask, let's say, New York Metropolitan Computer, hey New York, could you give me, list of citizens who are above 60 in Bronx area? Can I do that? Yes, I can do that because New York municipality have that data and I can go and ask them. So what they do, they build a view for me. which can be deleted in 2 hours. So if I ask that questions and that municipality server came to me uh, saying, okay, Ravindra Pandey asked all the residents above 60 staying in a Bronx area. So he'll give me a list. He'll give me a set of tables, right? So for all those set of tables will be created temporarily for Ravindra Pandey. And if Ravindra Pandey, missing in action, this table will be deleted in couple of minutes, couple of hours, depending upon the schema which I have programmed in the database. So these are the rules for temporariness given to a view. Indexes is basically sorting out. So all these different tables have to be sorted out, because whenever Ravindra Pandey says I need a records of citizens over 60, okay, and if many of such Ravindra keep asking such questions, what I'll do, I'll index the table accordingly, so that if next Ravindra Pandey comes, if next someone comes and asks data of 60, the citizen above age of 60, I'll have those things pre-cooked. So this is what we call indexes. This is what we call previously sorted out tables to create the view faster. And then there are synonyms, there are procedures, right? Synonyms also some sort of pre-cooked tables, pre-cooked views, and procedures, as we discussed. I have pre-programmed that procedure so that whatever tables or whatever data have to be pulled out from a database are already proactively programmed. So I have to just fire that program and I'll get the data in the least possible time. I'm trying to make the database more and more efficient. Okay, again, these are the words. If you remember right now, well and good. Otherwise, during interview, I am there to support you. Please don't worry on these things. And these words have standardized meaning. Yeah, please go ahead.
Can we call schema the simple word a scheme?
That's right, we can call, but as IT professionals,
just to understand.
Yes, you are very rightly call it as a scheme. That's right, because scheme is a particularly way of implementation, right? My flat scheme, my apartment scheme.
The
so
proper implementation.
Right. And that's why we call it a schema. Basically, scheme is the base word. Schema is a IT way of evaluation things.
IT version of scheme. Okay.
That's right. Very rightly said. This is how we learn, and this is how we interact together. That's why team learning is really best learning. Believe me, that's how I feel. Even I learn. So next time I'll say, okay, please try to understand schema as a scheme. That's a really great way to explain that. Thanks a lot for that.
Maybe schema is evolved from that scheme.
Come again, ma'am. I can't hear you. Could you please speak louder?
Yeah, maybe that schema is evolved from scheme.
Yeah,
that's right. That's what we told.
Yeah.
Very rightly said. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay, but these are the words we need to remember. Okay. Whenever you say what is a database, so database is comprised of a schema, tables, view, indexes, records, synonyms, data entities, so on and so forth. Right? So let's go ahead. Now again, this is just for a revision. This is how it looks like in Excel, right? So can anybody explain me what is table? Can anybody want to explain in their word what that picture depicts?
Table is a combination of rows and columns.
Perfect.
With a meaningful data.
Right.
That attributes is a student name, and Suresh Jain is a row. That cell is a row.
Right. Cell is a individual data entity.
Yeah, individual data entity.
So when I say student name, so I'm referring to a category of database, an attribute of a record, right?
Yeah.
Record is normally depicted horizontally in the row. There's a row and there's a column. So my columns are my attributes or type of data. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, like European, there are many other users in the world. They have certain way of calling it. So they call it attribute. They call it row or tuple. So tuples, rows, attributes, columns, these are the similar thing, which we need to learn. Not everybody does that, but if there's I think tuple is called by Russia, or those cultures. Tuple is a horizontal stick or horizontal row or collection of data entities. Okay, so we will learn such words along the way. You don't have to learn each and everything right as of today, but yes. Okay, now we normally use Microsoft Excel. Okay, but there's another company which is another being popular. It's an open system called Libre, like Lucid Charts, they have their own office, LibreOffice, which is normally used in Unix environment or Linux environment. Now these are all different operating systems. These are all different operating systems we use depending upon the way I want to spend, the way I want to invest in my IT infrastructure, right? So there are Libre worksheet, which is free of cost. You can download it on your mobile also. So there's a mobile version of LibreOffice. There's a desktop version of LibreOffice. There's a workstation, means a Linux or Unix based, type of system which use Libre worksheets, right? So these are another way of another company who have really created an office, or those PPTs, Excel sheet, Word document, and all those other things. That's another office which is famous in the market. It's called LibreOffice. Okay. And again, this is just a nomenclature. These are the different things in a different set of word other people use, right? And so we'll get acquainted whenever you join the job. Interview, these things might not pop up, so don't worry on that part. But whenever you join a certain company or certain group of companies, they might use those words, right? Now SQL business, yes, let's have a look at this video called SQL Business Analyst. Let me share that with you. Now this is again, I think, a big video, but where is that? Okay. This is browser installation. For story, give me a minute. Oh man, sorry, I couldn't find the video. Pardon me for that. Let me share that thing after this training, and we'll have a look at it, right?
No, but we can watch it. I mean, we got the name.
Yeah, I can share the link to you, and you can. These are basically specific commands they try to basically. This is again video 10 years before, but I'll just normally share with you so that this basic command. There are some basic command like select table, and then we normally give them column names and something like that for each and every sequential query type of syntax. That's what they call. So every language have a syntax. So these syntax are normally explained there. But yes, again, it's a kind of a refresher rather than learning. That's what I'll say. It's good to know. But I believe as far as SQL goes, this is all you need to know. And I think I shared that knowledge with you. Only now how it works actually on ground, that's what the video depicts. Sorry, I think it might got have deleted or something. So let me share that with you after this class, right? Now again, all this SQL, now what Microsoft have devised, they said for a person
Sir?
like, go ahead, ma'am.
We cannot see your screen.
Oh, sorry. Oh, pardon me. Pardon me for that. So I believe, let's stop on SQL as of here. I'll share the video with you. And then let's move on to something called SQLite. So for each desktop, like you use, Microsoft have come up with something like SQLite. So it's a smaller database. It's a serverless zero configuration database engine, which they have started distributing with each and every Microsoft Windows installation. Like Internet Explorer, there's a browser free, comes with the Microsoft Windows. they have started giving this SQLite free of cost to everybody. So you can do your study, do your homework whenever you want to do within your desktop, and that's how this thing. Now SQLite is an engine, not a server, so it's a serverless database, right? So this is what we need to understand, is basically a serverless database. Simple. So we don't have a server, actually we don't have a big separate computer. The engine, it's installed on your system itself, right? Let's not get complicated the life. SQLite is basically a small database on your personal computer. Just stop there, right? Let's not go into detail of such thing. Why we have this thing? Because there are many times I might need to practice certain database skill. I might need to practice certain database commands. So I use this SQLite within my desktop. It's like practicing practicing talking on a smaller phone than a bigger phone kind of scenario. We talk the similar way. We discuss the similar thing. Only, yes, there are some quality restrictions. There are some restriction in terms of access, credentials, and all those things, right? Let's try to let's try to watch this video. SQLite, browser installation. I believe I have that video. Yes, I have that video. It's a small video where we're trying to understand how this SQL, light server works for a given thing. Okay, and to play.
Hello, in this video I'm going to teach you about installing SQLite. Now when you Google for SQLite, you're going to basically get into sqlite.org. And
now again, this is an open system support started by Microsoft, and then there are other parties who came in and they have basically enhanced this SQLite to a new level. Now again, C is one of the most crude language in the IT programming world, and this was started as an C language library type of thing. I'm really confused. Should I show? Okay, just watch it and forget it. Let's not deliberate on that.
There's going to be a download section there, and there's the other one that.
And this is how the software is normally get shared. Could you understand? You normally land to a website. So for SQLite, you have a sqlite.org/indexhtml is the web page where you normally land, and this is a website of this SQLite community. And there you go to a download section and download the software.
In this video, I'm going to teach you about installing SQLite. Now, when you Google for SQLite, you're going to basically get into sqlite.org, and there's going to be a download section there. And there's the other one that is called the SQLite DB browser, right? So this is the website that you want to get into, sqlitebrowser.org.
Could you understand? And this is how we also release our software product. So whenever I developed something called, attendance management system enhancement for State Farm, I'll put it on my cloud server and I'll give something like that link. So attendance management system enhancement.org. Why org? Because I'm not selling right away. I'm giving away it for a, trying out. I'm giving them for user testing or something like that. So before selling, before actual product, I might make them available unofficially, or I might them available for trying and testing. And this is how I do it. I create a separate server. I create a separate cloud server. That's how I normally call it. So this is a temporary cloud server where I deploy the code. I copy paste there the code, and they'll start downloading and start installing and start trying. Because State Farm can be in Timbuktu. I can work in Chicago. State Farm can be in Timbuktu. So transporting it in a CD or a pen drive normally is not a good practice. So what I do, I deploy it on a cloud server. I copy and paste the code in a cloud server, and that's how they access it. We're going to learn about this deployment whenever we do QA and QCs. Okay. So let's try to understand as an analyst how things are getting deployed. Normally, Amazon ships the sari or Punjabi dress to my house and I access it. In software, this is how you deploy it and this is how you access it, right? After downloading, I'll start using it. So there's a learning as an analyst how I get the software product. For a mobile game, for a mobile applications, I go to a Play Store. Play Store also have many cloud servers. They have regional cloud server. Like Midwest, they have a cloud server. For India, they have 6-7 different cloud server. For China, they have 10-15 cloud server because of the user base. So the more the number of user, I'll have more servers to supply them. Normally, a server can support 200 or 300 such users effectively. But if the number of users grow, I have to have another server, right? And that's how I do it. But via cloud, I can have just single link shared all across the globe. And the computer can decide if the Ravindra Pandey is signing from Mumbai, he'll land to a Mumbai server. If he's signing from New York, he'll land to North American East server, so on and so forth. So this is how I distribute the software effectively. Does that make sense? Could you understand? Could you relate from a shopping to a software distribution?
Yeah.
I know it's difficult. I know it's a new, but this is how we discuss in a given world. So
But I have
normally,
a question. When they call it a serverless, there is still a cloud server. So how can they
very
call it a
good
server?
question. Yeah, I was expecting this thing. Now SQLite is serverless because this is not for distribution. This is for research and practice purpose. That's why they category call it serverless, because they want to take away your distribution facility, and that's why they make it free. Could you understand? मैंने आपको गाड़ी तो गिफ्ट दे दी है, बट चाक नहीं दी है. Wheels, I'll kept it with me. So whenever you say, अरे मेरे को wheels चाहिए ना, so पैसे दो. And this is how the commercialness of this thing works.
It's like those lucid chart. Remember, you said it's free.
Right.
When I went and registered it, they said you can have 3 documents free, but the 4th one you'll have to pay.
Yes, exactly. Now you got the point. This is how the IT works. So when you say community, बहुत प्यारे, बहुत प्यारे. But when you say I want to use it, पैसे दे. This is how it works in real life.
Right.
And take it lightly. Because
Right.
every industry has its way of earning profit, because everybody want to earn one, right? Everyone want to earn money. If I make something for everybody, I might want to get rich, right? I might want to get famous. ये normally fame के लिए करते हैं. Open system means they try to increase their brand value, if you can understand in that scenario. So this is how you create a brand with giving free.
Right.
Now why Microsoft is giving free? Because बहुत लोगों ने उंगली दिखाया कि ये बहुत पैसे बनाता है कंपनी, लेकिन फ्री फुकट कुछ नहीं देता. So like discount sale, they made some community version of their software, like SQLite, or like other things basically. Now SQLite is not owned by Microsoft, but it's owned by an community. So it's owned by a couple of organizations together, and they basically create some. They ask for donations, they ask for this thing. Even the best thing is like we go to this wiki links, right? We go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a community service. So unless they have sufficient donation, they can't run. They came into almost bankruptcy last year, and so they started accepting donations, and that's how these community editions work. Because you're working, right? So for work you need some efforts. For efforts you need some money, and that's how
Nothing is free in
the
this
software
world.
companies make money. Yeah, go ahead, please, ma'am.
Nothing is free in the world anyway.
Exactly, that's right. No lunch is free. So this is what we need to learn. Like what is free, what is community, why is there open system? They call it open system, but by the end of the day, you have to watch their advertisements. Like the free game, right? You have free game on the Google Play Store or Apple, but they force some advertisements to you, right?
They
And
make
this is how to work.
Yeah.
So that's the philosophy I want you to understand. And if you can understand that, well and good. That's really great. So now you understand what is open system, right? Let's try to understand this light thing.
Sir?
You can go to the
Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, sir. So the serverless is the SQLite, whatever we need to download, it has to be on the cloud, which we need to download as a template. But whatever data we are entering in it, it will not be stored anywhere else apart from my computer.
That's right, ma'am.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's why
if
it's
I'm creating
independent.
a
That's why it's
couple of-
serverless.
Yeah, that is why it is serverless.
Right,
Because
ma'am.
if there is a centralized server, then there will be a couple of computers who can access that.
Exactly. You got the point.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Go, sir. Let's go ahead.
download section and then download whichever version suits you. For me, it's going to be the 64-bit Windows standard installer.
Now this is also software get distributed. Depending upon what you're using, they'll categorize you and they'll make separate versions. This is what the version, right? We talked about the version in RTM. Now these are the deployment version. These are the separate deployment version for fit for your need. So if you use Windows, XP, 7, 2000, 4000, whatever it may be, so there'll be a separate version for the OS. Because it's a serverless, we need to tweak it as per your your environment. So there's something called for Mac also. If you go down,
So download that one. Okay, so once it's downloaded, what we can do is go to the folder and double click this to open it. So I can say next, say accept, say next. TV browser desktop, yes, I want to put this in the desktop and say next, next, and say install. So say yes for this. Okay. So SQLite version is a really quick version to basically get started with SQL and filing.
please don't do this because now it's not required. I'm just sharing with you because we should understand the release, build, version process here, right? And this is a similar thing happens with document as well. So whenever everything is on a cloud, you have all those restrictions, authorization service clamped to it. So whatever you are distributing is with the authenticated user only, and this is how it happens, right? And this is how the software industry work for the release and all those things. So just try to understand how it's work out. You don't have to download and install it on your PC. I'm just trying to share it with you how it works in a real life.
You're learning SQL, so really good one. And I will restart the system and then come back to this particular video. So I've restarted my system. Now what I can do is go to the SQLite DB browser and then open it. So let's see what we're going to see there. So when you're going to come there, it's going to say error when connected to download.sqlite.org. Currently, say okay.
This is the normal software life cycle. You keep getting error, you clarify things step by step and then get it configured. This is what we call configuration step. So you change certain environmental setting, you get it working. Most of the time there are a couple of features whenever you start working on a new software. Let's say if you downloaded a game from a Google store, right? There are certain problems whenever you first start using it, right? Similar way. So whenever you start using particular things, new things, there are some hiccups, and these are what the hiccups are all about, right? And this is how they're reflected in a software environment.
I think so. This should be working even if that error is showing. So what I can do is let's see if I can create a new database. I'm calling it test DB.
So database is a collection of tables.
Again, let me give a table name, say EMP, and then I can add a field, call it ID, and add another field, call it employee name, and this I can change this to text. Right?
Okay, sorry. Could you see down there's a create table, EMP, bracket start, ID, integer. Now this is what we call types of variables. These are the types of entities which we are entering. So that cell, that ID cell in the table will have only number. Integer is a number, right? Integer is a number with it's a complete number. So we can't have 2.5 there. We have 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Now, when I say a name or text, my name is a text, right? So it can have name as well as number. I can call Ravindra Junior 3. There are number like these in Britain if you go there. So they also have allowed number to enter, and the type is text. And there are few types, right?
Call it employee name.
See, there's a text, there's a BLOB, real name. Now all these things changes if you go with some different database. right? These are what called data types. Okay, ID is a data, employee name is a data, and then there's a type. Okay, and then there are other attributes like is it a numeral, is it a primary key, and blah blah blah. Let's not go there. Okay, so these are what we need to understand. So in Excel also I can restrict the data type. As you see, we have restricted that data type to date whenever we were doing that, pivot table, right, or a chart. So only I can enter date. So these type of restrictions I can create for a particular data types, right? Oh, sorry, it's almost 11 o'clock. Oh, let me,
This I can change this to text.
right? So we can basically align as per my need.
Right. Say okay. And that's the first table that I have there, right? Now this is the browser data. There is no data. So there's an execute SQL page here, which I can do insert.
Insert is a command to enter data into the table, right? In Excel sheet, I just start typing. But here I need to tell the computer, "Ki boss, take the data from me." Right? And what are the restrictions I have implemented? I have to apply that schema whenever I am entering the particular data. Does that make sense? Just bear with me, a couple of minutes. That's all. We'll complete this, and at a logical point, we'll close this thing down.
To EMP values, where I can give ID as 1, name as my name, and run the.
This is what you call syntax. This is a command, SQL command. Insert into emp, that's a table name, values, 1, and I don't know, I couldn't read that thing. Rumal, Kumal, Kunal, I believe, right? So Kunal is the name I'm entering as a first record. And when I say execute, this data will be get entered into the table. So that's a command, right? Let's see.
Oops, that's the run code, and it's successfully inserted. So you can see that the database has inserted 1.
So I got 1 record.
Right, so pretty light database guys for you to experiment your SQL codes with.
This is SQL command, create table, employee, blah, blah, blah. This is what they call SQL command set. So create table, creates a table, delete table, deletes a table, select table, selects a table, and basically display the data, something like that.
Thank you for watching this video, guys.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, I took a bit longer time today. Pardon me for that. I know it's quite late. Where's the presentation gone? Okay, this is a presentation. Okay, so we understand SQL. We understand, or we wrapped up around the visualization of a tool, right? Any question for me at this moment?
Okay. So when I went through the before videos, I thought that you shared this video or something.
I'll share this video as well as.
Not this. Tell me about yourself.
Okay. Yeah. I'll share those video again. Don't worry.
Okay. And
go ahead.
And another thing that envision that you said take a print of that and put it on your.
Could you speak louder, ma'am? I couldn't hear you. Tell me about yourself. I'll definitely. Yeah. What?
Yeah, requirements life cycle, envision, measure, plan, launch,
life cycle. No. Life cycle we're going to learn in our next step. What you call quality assurance, because SDLC we need to study.
No, you said that in that video, you said that take a print of that and put it in your desktop or somewhere that you can easily.
I couldn't hear you, ma'am.
Hello?
Could you speak a bit louder? Yeah, could you please speak louder?
Yeah, you said that take that printout of requirements life cycle. So I want that.
I'll set that image again. Yes, definitely. Okay. I'll set that image. Don't go. It's a kind of summarization of all. So let's call BA summarized image. I'll send you that also. No problem.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Anything other? Anybody else?
I'm good. No, sir.
Okay, great.
We are
So
good.
let's stop here today. I'll share this thing. I'll share the recording also with you within, I think 1 hour or so you can have a look at it tomorrow. I know there are lots of words we've learned together, and we'll try to understand. These are important from interview perspectives. Okay, and I think I categorically mentioned then and there whenever we are discussing. If at all you have any problem, feel free to message me, WhatsApp me, and I'm there for your help. Right? Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, and have a great good night.
Thank you.
Have a
Good
good day.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night,
Thank you, sir.
everyone.
Good night.
Take care.